Okay, so our next problem is greatest of the two numbers, and in the same problem we will going to see greatest of the three numbers, and it is fairly simple. Let's look at the logic. I will delete this title first. Okay, so let's say we have two numbers, a equal to 5 and b equal to 10. Okay, now there are comparisons operator available in every programming languages, that is greater than, less than, greater than equal to, less than equal to, and not equal to. Okay, now what we are interested in this greater than, because we will need to check the difference. If the difference is rather greater than 0, then one number is greater than another. So if a is greater than b, so a minus b, that is this difference, should be greater than 0. And if b is greater than a, then b minus a difference is greater than 0. And we all know this, right? Let's look at the pseudocode right now. So pseudocode is basically, let's say we have two predefined inputs. Let's say a equal to 5 and b equal to 10. This is predefined and this can be a user input. What we will need to do, we will check if my a is greater than b. We will start with a, and if you want you can start with b also. That is completely fine. Let's say if a is greater than b, then we can simply say simply print out that is a is greater than b. And in the else section, if a is not greater than b, then we can simply say b is greater than a. Okay, now let's look at the logic of greatest of the three numbers. Okay, now let's say we have three numbers, a equal to 10, b equal to 15 and c equal to 18. Now clearly looking at these numbers, we know that c equal to 18 is greater than both of these numbers. Now let's try to figure out how we can do it programmatically, right? So what we can do, we can check if my a is greater than b, and if it is true, then we will check my a is greater than c. If both these conditions satisfies, then we can simply say a is greater than both of the number, right? Because we need to find greatest. Similarly, we can check for if b is greater than a and b is greater than c, and at the same time, if both of these conditions satisfies, then we can say b is greater than. And in the last else section, if a is not greater, b is not greater, then c is greatest. Okay, and we are assuming that all three numbers are not equal, right? So let's try to look at the pseudocode right now. A equal to 10, b equal to 15 and c equal to 18. Now these are predefined numbers, we have defined it, and it can be a user input. Now what we can do, we can check if my a is greater than b. Okay, now this is how you write both the condition must satisfy to make the whole condition true. Okay, now if let's say, let me complete this one, and a is greater than c. Okay, now what will happen if a is greater than b, this condition satisfies, and at the same time this a is greater than c condition should also satisfy to make this block code of block work, because we want these two conditions that get satisfied at the same time. Okay, so we can say a is greater or greatest, right? And in the else section, we will need to write one if condition, because there are two conditions, right? So b is greater than a, and at the same time b should be greater than c, and here we can write b is greatest. And if we know that a and b are not greatest, then we can simply say c is greatest. Okay, and this is the pseudocode, right? Let's try to incorporate all these things into our actual code. Okay, now let's do the code. Greatest of the two numbers. I have declared two variables, int a and b. Okay, now I will going to take input from the user using the c in a and b, right? Then I will have condition, if my a number is greater than b number, then I would print directly cout a is greater than b. Okay, and if this condition fails, that means b is greater than a, so I am printing b is greater than a. It is very simple. Okay, now let's execute this problem. I will create a problem and I will give two inputs, 10 and 15. So we know that 15 is greater than 10, so we should get something like 15 is greater than 10, right? Let's give something like -1 and -2. It should check. See, -1 is greater than -2. You should know that, right? So -1 is greater than -2. Let's check for the opposite case. Okay, so let's say we have given 1 as a lower number, or let's say 10 as a lower number and 9 as the second number. Okay, so we will get 10 is greater than 9. It is working perfectly. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this code here. Let me comment it out first, and let's do code for the greatest of the three numbers. Okay, cool. Now here I will have another variable which will contain third value. Then I will input the third variable. Okay, I will ask the user to input three numbers, right? This C variable is for the third number. Okay, and I will check here if my A is greater than B, and at the same time if my A is greater than C, that means that my A number is greater than both B and C. And else here I will have another condition, else if my B is greater than A, and at the same time if my B is greater than C, that means my B is greater than both the numbers here. So I'm directly going to copy this. Let me paste it here. So my B is greater than A and C. You got it. And if both the conditions are failed, then A is not greater, B is not greater, at last C is greater. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this print statement. Let's print it out here. Okay, so C is greater than my A and B value. Okay, so let's try to execute it. So I have this test case here. Let me give three numbers, that is 1, 2 and 3, simple, and we should get 3 is greater than 1 and 2. 3 is greater than 1 and 2. Let's give another input, that is -1, -2 and -15, let's say. Okay, so -1 is greater than -2 and -15. I hope you got the logic. So it's your time to do the code now. Thanks for watching.